Hey, what's up guys, it's Don here from the Krystal Kaos TCG, and today we are going to be doing another Krystal Showcase video. And today's Krystal Showcase is of the Ignis Krystal for set 1. So, the Ignis Krystal is the fire elemental crystal, and the creatures from Ignis are all like lava creatures. They're made out of fire, they're really hot, lots of things like that, because it's the fire elemental crystal. In the previous Krystal Showcase video, I stated that every crystal has their own unique strategy, and the Ignis strategy, it's kind of two different things, but they kind of go along with each other, but the strategy doesn't show off as well in the Ignis rival ability as well as the Oceanum one, but they still go along with this one strategy. And the Ignis strategy, well, first I'll just read what the Ignis rival ability is, and if you don't know what rival abilities are, don't worry, I haven't uploaded a video yet, so you're not going to be the only one, but hopefully soon I can upload a video explaining over the rules of crystals and rival abilities, and also there's a new mechanic which I want to explain as well. Anyways, the Ignis Krystal's rival ability reads: when one of your Ignis creatures attacks and kills its rival, it gains 30 power. And this is because Ignis creatures tend to have a lot of power, but in return they have very weak health. Kind of like a candle, you know, like they have a lot of power but they're really weak, sort of. I don't know. I don't even know if that makes sense. But Ignis, and I said that there's two parts to their strategy, so that's the first part. But the second part is that near the end of the game, they tend to be stronger. So it kind of reminds me of a candle burning out, except like it keeps getting, like, the later and later it is, candles don't really get stronger, I don't know, but it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. But Ignis creatures, it's like they're burning out and they give their all at the end. Like, they get more powerful as the game progresses, and in a few cards you'll see that. But so that is the Ignis Krystal, and that is the Ignis strategy. So the first creature for Ignis is a card that you guys have probably all seen before, and that is called S'more. And S'more is a 3-shard creature with 190 power and 110 health. He was in my original Krystal Kaos, and I don't know, I just decided to bring him back over to here because I liked him a lot. There are actually no Ignis creatures that have higher health and power as of set 1, so you guys can just see that going along. But the next Ignis card in set 1 is a card called Molten Toucan. And Molten Toucan is a 2-shard creature with 120 power and 70 health. So he also has an ability, but first I want to explain this. So Ignis is actually the first crystal to have a full, like, a major archetype. It's not really a major archetype, but it's bigger than any of the, like, 3-carded archetypes. They all work really well with each other, and there's quite a lot of cards that goes along with the archetype. So in return, because I did that, there's not a lot of just plain Ignis creatures, but I think some of the creatures make up for it, and I really like the idea of having an archetype and a molten archetype. I had that in my original Krystal Kaos, so I brought it over here, and they are pretty much the biggest archetype in the game right now. They're not huge, but they're the biggest one, and they all work well with each other. And Molten Toucan's ability reads: when one of your molten creatures dies, choose one of your played molten creatures, and it gains 20 health. Now, I'll explain the molten strategy, because all archetypes have a strategy. Just like crystals have strategies, an archetype has their own strategy. And the molten archetype is all about benefiting off of dead molten creatures, because they all theoretically live in this molten rainforest. And real normal rainforests, they all benefit off of each other surviving. Like, they all work in combination with each other, living off of each other, symbiosis. There's a bunch of good things that come of survival, and they benefit off of survival in normal rainforests. However, in the molten rainforest, it's kind of the opposite, because the molten rainforest has so much radiation. Since Ignis is so hot and so close to the sun, which in Krystal Kaos it's called the Calamity Star. All of the radiation has caused the rainforest to mutate, sort of, and it became the opposite of a normal rainforest, which is why this strategy is the opposite of how normal rainforests work, which is that the molten creatures benefit off of each other dying. So Molten Toucan is a good way to show off of that strategy. Now the next Ignis creature I have is another molten creature, and it is called Molten Python. And Molten Python is a 4-shard creature with 200 power and 100 health. And its ability reads, any of your played creatures with higher power than health becomes a molten creature. So what that means is, even if they're not an Ignis creature, as long as they have higher power than health, when you play Molten Python, they become a molten creature, which is really, really useful, because even though it doesn't change them into an Ignis creature, they're now considered as a molten creature, and you can use some of these abilities on them, and they also count as molten creatures when they're dead, which you'll see in a couple minutes why that is really good. But the next card is called Molten Panther, and Molten Panther is a 5-shard creature with 250 power and 160 health. This is the only molten creature without an ability, but Molten Panther helps balance out the archetype. Now, the next creature is not a molten creature, but it is the most powerful creature in the entire set. That doesn't mean it has the most combined power and health, but it has the most power in the entire set, and it is one of the 2 super rare creature cards in set 1, and his name is Volcanic Destructor. I'm sorry about the lines on the printing, my printer is kind of messed up, but Volcanic Destructor is an 8-shard creature with 460 power and 250 health. Now, 460 power is ridiculous. It's really, really, really good. It's the highest power in the game. His health is not that great at all, but he makes up for it with his power, and that's why he's a super rare. But there's going to be a card that goes along well with Ignis decks that I will show you at the end that can make him even better. But Volcanic Destructor is a really great card, and that's why he's a super rare. But yeah, that's also the boss creature for the Ignis creatures. Now the next Ignis creature is the final molten creature, and that is Molten Beast. And he's not the boss monster Ignis creature for set 1, but he's the boss of the molten creatures, you can say. And he is a rare creature. He costs 7 shards to play. He has 350 power, which is really good. Not that great for a 7-shard, I wouldn't say, and then he has 200 health, which again, low health for Ignis. But his ability reads, you must have at least 1 dead molten creature to play this creature, so you can't play him right away at the start of the game. You'd have to have at least 1 dead molten creature. But after that, it reads, this creature gains 20 power for any of your killed molten creatures. So what that means is, if any of these molten creatures are dead, he gains an extra 20 power. And that is why Molten Python is a staple in any molten deck, because his ability can change a lot of cards into molten cards, which can boost Molten Beast up to ridiculous power. So that is he is a really good card, and that's why he's a rare. Now, the final Ignis creature for set 1 is a common card, but it is actually probably one of the best common cards in the game, and his name is Infernos. Now, I really like his artwork a lot. I don't know why. It's really simple, but I really like the way that it came out. But he has 330 power and 240 health, and he costs only 6 shards to play. And that is really, really good for a 6-shard creature, especially for a common. So He's probably one of the best common cards in the game. I don't know, but I really like him, and I think that since Ignis had an archetype, that I think that they should have had at least a really good common card as well, just to make it more usable. But those are all of the Ignis creatures. So now I will go on to show you the support card for Ignis is Flame Wheel. And Flame Wheel is a permanent resource which reads, choose one of your played Ignis creatures. It gains 50 power. If your crystal has less points than your opponent's, it gains 70 power. You can do this again for every 2 dead Ignis creatures. So this is the card that I was talking about earlier that goes along with the other strategy of Ignis, of as the game goes on, they get more powerful. So because if you have less points than your opponents, it's probably getting to be late in the game, or at least it's some time has passed in the game. So that's probably the best time to play Flame Wheel, and you do the best at the end of the game or when you're losing. That's Flame Wheel goes along with that strategy, and it's actually a pretty good card. So it also goes along with Ignis creatures having a lot of power, because it gives them power. However, you can only do this to one creature, but this kind of even combos off well with the Molten archetype as well, because you can do this again for every 2 dead Ignis creatures. If you're playing Molten deck as well, you'd probably have a lot of dead Ignis creatures, in fact, because that's how they work. So this would go well with that, and that's also why it goes along with the strategy of later on in the game, because later on in the game you'd have more dead creatures, so you can do it again and again. So Flame Wheel is a really good support card, and it goes along with the strategy really well. Now the next card is sort of a support card. It's not really, but it's not really an Ignis support card, so to say, but it is a support card for the Molten archetype, and it is a Chaos card called Molten Rain. And Molten Rain reads, when a Molten creature dies, choose one of your played Molten creatures, and it gains 50 power and health. The dead creature counts as 2 dead Molten creatures. So this does 2 things. It benefits off of Molten creatures dying by letting you increase the power and health of another Molten creature when a Molten creature dies. But it also does another thing, which it helps boost up your dead Molten creatures, which you want to have in a Molten deck. So this is a really good card if you're ever playing with just a Molten archetype. Now I'm going to show you 2 more cards, and these don't go directly with Ignis, but they would work well in an Ignis deck. The first card is a single-use resource card called Ancient Chocolate Bar, and it reads, both players must shuffle 3 dead creatures into their deck. Now this can kind of counteract with the Molten archetype a little bit, but it would work well in an Ignis deck, because in an Ignis deck, since they tend to have really low health, you would probably have a lot of dead creatures, and they would probably die faster than in any other crystal, because they have such low health. So Ancient Chocolate Bar is a really good card to get those cards back into your deck and into your hand eventually, so you can play them again, since you're probably going to be running out of creatures in those decks. And the last card that would go well in an Ignis deck is a bridge booster called Trolloclus the Protector, and its ability reads, when a creature in the corresponding creature area with 300 or less health were to be killed, kill this card instead. So it's basically a sacrifice. And the reason why this works well in Ignis decks especially is since they have such low health. Actually, I just checked, and every single Ignis creature can be used with Trolloclus the Protector's ability, which is insane, because the limit on it with 300 or less health was to make sure that you can't use it with too many powerful creatures. But since they have such low health, this is such a great card to have in an Ignis deck. The only way that you couldn't use it on them is if you added health to it, but this is such a good card to have in an Ignis deck, since you can use it to protect them. Alright guys, that was the Crystal Showcase for the Ignis Krystal, which is the Fire Elemental Krystal. So, if you guys have enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, join the Krystal Kaos Discord server. Actually, please let me know which Ignis creature is your favourite out of these 7. I don't know, my favourite is either Volcanic Destructor and Infernos. Let me know which one is your guys' favourite. One quick update. I have finished set 1, which is great news, so I will be uploading cards to the Game Crafter, getting everything set on there, getting the website, and then testing some of them, and hopefully soon I can do a pack opening of them and then eventually release it to the public for you guys. So I'm really excited about that, but stay tuned for that. So stay tuned for the next Krystal Showcase video, which will be of Vita. But again guys, I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you guys for watching again, and have a great day. Bye.